Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. I hope you've all dried off and taken a hot shower from yesterday. But here we are at the final Pitchfork Talks of Primavera. My name is Jeremy D. Larson, and I'd love to have everyone please give a warm welcome to Ninajirachi. We were just talking about kind of like the economics of touring and how COVID really changed that. And I know you were telling me that you were doing a little bit of touring before COVID, but then sort of like COVID stopped. I'm curious, like what did you do when COVID happened in 2020? Where were you and what were you doing?
It was crazy because in February 2020, I was doing an opening slot for an artist in Australia around the country, and there was a stop in New Zealand as well, and COVID was starting to be a thing that people were worrying about, but no one was really sure if it was legit going to be a problem or something like that. So I had gone to New Zealand for like 3 days to open the show there, and then I remember like going back to Australia and then getting a message from the host of where I had stayed in New Zealand being like, hey, this virus thing is kind of for real, like just check, you just stayed here, are you like sick? And I was like, no, I'm not sick. And then the next show, the following weekend, like the last shows were at these venue. The last one was at a venue in Sydney that was about 2,000 capacity or something, and the Australian government had mandated like closing of venues that size from the following week, and this was on a Saturday night. And I remember at the show we were all like, wow, this might be like the last show of this size in this city for a sec, like we don't know what's kind of going on. So yeah, after that it was I was fortunate, luckily I had been like planning to move out of the place I lived in, Sydney, so I just got to move back to my family's place in like the Central Coast for the COVID time, so that was really lucky for me actually.
Oh, nice.
So that was what was going on for me in 2020, and then I just kind of hung out there for a while with my family.
What did you like do as far as like, how did that change like your creative trajectory, if at all?
Well, I had finished this EP that I released in 2020 called Bloomier at that point, and I guess I didn't see any reason to not release it. I also was a really small artist at the time. I didn't have much of a, like there weren't really like many people relying on my output, or so it was still kind of, I was down to do whatever, so I still just put out this EP. And there were some shows that I had booked that got cancelled because of COVID, but it was still mostly opening slots or small festival slots or things that didn't affect me too much when I couldn't play them. So I just didn't have much to lose, I guess.
Sure,
my career was so baby at the time. I wasn't like, I wasn't on like a arena tour with 30 trucks. Like it was fun. I mean,
It's so funny. You look at like the dance music that was released in 2020, and so many of the comments, you look at like the top comments on YouTube and they're just like, I can't wait to dance this. I can't wait to hear this in a club. There was almost this sort of like wishful sort of like nostalgia for a future. Like, oh, I can't wait to experience this in the way that it's supposed to be experienced. And it's like, so because people have been, some people have been working on tracks for years, and it's just like, well, I have to put this out because like it just needs to come out at that moment. I always thought that like that moment in like dance music and electronic music was like really fascinating because there was all these like online DJs, like this like live stream DJ sets, and then all of a sudden like the rise of the social media DJ like kind of blows up, where it's just sort of like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to DJ. I'm in home. I have nothing to do, and then that sort of like creates this whole other, arm of electronic music and DJ culture, for better or worse, however you want to like think about it. But I guess like, did you, a lot of, obviously like a lot of your new album is so much about life as like a digital native. I'm wondering, I think COVID and being alone and being at home and just being online all the time, like really kind of like altered the brain chemistry of a lot of people. And there's like a lot of art and movies and music being kind of made about that. I'm wondering, like, a lot of like your music talks about sort of formative, like pre-COVID experiences, like being a digital native. Did being in COVID like change anything for that, or was that sort of carried over from when you were like a young person?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think for me personally, it probably did carry over from when I was really young. I know so there's probably there are a lot of people who got into dance music from going out and hearing it in the environment for which it was made. But I first heard dance music on my headphones on the bus to school. So and I also, when I was in school, didn't really have many friends in person who were into internet music or producer music and things like that. So it was...
What was that like?
I mean, it was fine. Like, I'm not like, I share so much music taste with my childhood friends, and I'm still so close. Like, they're still my best friends. And we would always go to concerts together, and we had so much music taste overlap. I just felt like the really specific types of internet music that I was into, we maybe didn't. It was like maybe some of it was a little bleep bloop to them,
Sure.
which is like so fine. Yeah, I felt like there was some parts of my music taste I couldn't really connect with many of my friends on when I was 14, like when I was really young. And so maybe but I did kind of gradually throughout school make online friends or friends through that kind of music that I could connect with about it. So maybe then when COVID happened and I was doing like Zoom DJ parties and stuff, it kind of felt like that again. I don't know, I guess like for me, like I really like just kind of being alone in my room making music. I feel really comfortable that way.
Yeah.
And that was the way that I was introduced to electronic music. So yeah, when I was kind of forced at home to just do that all the time, it wasn't, it was like a crisis in all these other ways, but in that sense, I was very happy. Yeah,
and I feel like you welcomed a lot of people to your world, being like, hey, I've been like this for a long time,
Yeah, I guess so, but like at the same time, it was like, because I had also just started kind of DJing around a lot more, and then when COVID happened, it was a bummer that I had to stop doing that for a while.
What were the parties you were DJing like? What was it like? Sort of like, I think explaining sort of the Australian electronic music scene might be a little bit of a mystery to a lot of people. Maybe you can explain a little bit about like what that was like to be in either your scene or the scene that's in Melbourne or scenes that are in Perth, and how they're either like connected or disparate.
It's a good question. I'm trying to, because I really want to give like a good picture of what maybe that looked like before COVID, but I also don't know. It was so long ago, and I also was maybe a little disconnected from like the main parts of that in Australia. Most of the shows I played were with like NLV Records and Nina Las Vegas and lineups that she put on, or I remember doing a really fun show with FBI Radio and Side Chains and Denzel, and like, yeah, there were a few places I remember playing as a teenager where I felt like the music I was playing really made sense. I remember there being a few kind of more broader taste festivals or events that I played where I think maybe people weren't about some of the music I was playing yet, and that's also totally fine as well. Yeah, I do remember being younger and feeling like I don't know where my music kind of like sits in Australia around that time. But so I don't know if I can really give like a bird's eye view, like this is what the scene was like, because I don't know. I was just sort of in my corner with like my friends who liked the same kind of music as me.
There's a song on on your record that I think to me speaks to like at least one kind of sound on. Oh my God! I accidentally opened up Slack. This is where my brain is. This speaks to one sound. I'm so glad I can just talk to you about my phone issues. So I feel like you're the one person who's like, yeah, I get it. The All I Am, right? Like that to me, like feels like such an Australian like song, like dance song. Like I hear like Empire of the Sun.
That is so cool that you say that.
I hear like Pinau, or how do you pronounce that?
Yes.
Panau.
Yes.
Like I heard that, I was like, oh man, this is just like, if Australian dance music had like a sound, like I would say like it's that.
That is so cool that you say that, because I think I've like said this in interviews before, but when in the months leading up to the session where I made that song, because I made that song with 4 other people. Like we were in it. Who was in it? It was such a special day. And leading up to then, I had been listening to so much Pinau.
Oh, Pinau.
Yeah. PNAU.
Sure, yeah.
And Empire of the Sun, and I love that music. And so then I was in LA, and I had recently been through. Okay, so I met Ben Lee through our mutual friend Mallrat, and Ben I think came to my show, or I DJ'd at his house party or something, and he is such an amazing, kind, generous person, and I think he is really nice in that he likes to put people together and help them make friends, and especially because I was a new or like smaller like Australian artist in another country, he was just very welcoming. And so he organised a jam kind of session at his house. And
is it like a studio there?
Yeah, it was like a home studio, and he invited me and Alex from Phantom Planet, Jenna from Heaven She and Tonight Alive, and Maz from Wax. And so it was 4 Australians and 1 American. And they all don't make dance music necessarily, so I was kind of the only electronic producer. And there was no kind of agenda for the day. We were just making music and hanging out and kind of all getting to know each other and stuff. And the kind of thesis for the day was that they would all just like record. I would just record them playing whatever, and we'd try to turn it into a song. So it was just a lot of audio through like different microphones and turning it into something. And by the end of the day, we had made a bunch of things, and then the kind of like first minute or so of All I Am had like taken shape, and we were like, oh, this is really beautiful and cool. And then maybe I think I played it at a show like a month later, and it went really well.
Just like a demo of the track or something?
Yeah, it was like a minute long, like just the build up and drop, but it had gone really, really well because it had Jenna's like shout hook, cool. And it was like really, people caught onto it really quickly. So then I just messaged them all, and I was like, hey, can I like would you be cool if I finished this, and tried to make it into something. And I had been thinking about wanting to make an album for a while leading up until that point, and I think that's also why I had been going back and listening to a lot of Australian dance music and trying to absorb that canon and stuff. So that when we made that song All I Am, it did feel like my North Star for making an album, and that was in 2023. That I didn't just like immediately just 9 to 5 work on an album every day from then on, but that was when the cogs started turning of maybe this is a song that could be on my hypothetical album that I'm working on, and they were all really down for it. So
oh wow,
yeah.
So that was like kind of like the first little thing for I Love My Computer.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
well,
cool.
There's songs on the like, for example, Delete and Cyrac. They're ideas from 2019 and 2022, but I never had them in mind for my, like All I Am was the first song where I was like, this is for my album, and everything else was decided. Was that the first time you worked with something outside of like Ableton? Outside of like working with like an actual like synth drum set kind of thing? No, I've done a bunch of audio recording. I'm not like an amazing musician. Like I grew up playing the piano, and stuff, but in terms like I can't like go into a studio and like rip it on everything you know what I mean? I'm just like, that's not me. But it was so sick being in a room of like 4 insane musicians who could do that and record them and stuff. I've done a bunch of that before, but I'm definitely usually in the computer chair, being the sampler and such. And I've done a lot of like vocal recording and stuff. But yeah, like, I'm mostly in the box, unless it's a session with like someone else who's like really good at their instrument. I'm usually just on the laptop, to be honest.
I wanted to go back to Australian music for a second. I wonder if you can. I know like grabbing bands out of thin air can be annoying, but if you were to put like the 3 Australian, like the canon of Australian dance music, like who would you put up there?
Oh my god, I can't. It's too much pressure. I can't do that. I can only like. Okay, so I can try this, but I can maybe talk about like,
what it means to you. What it means to you. What it means to not everybody. But you, like the things that you pull in and the things that like are your Australian dance.
Yeah, I'm worried if I like say 3 and then I'm missing like
the comments are just
the goats from like exactly. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm trying to think of like the big ones for me when I was in my formative time. Well, I would say Kylie Minogue is like one of the, my mum is a massive Kylie fan, and so am I, but my mum was playing her music when I was really little, so that was some of the first music I ever absorbed into my psyche.
Yeah.
Empire of the Sun, just listened to them so much when I was younger as well, and oh my god, there's too many. I'm just going to say the presets, but there are so many. Like, I could say 30 if you wanted me to, but let's just leave it there.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good because I think that just like how there is something, you know, sometimes if I'll listen to some, I won't name names, but I'll listen to some Australian electronic music and it seems to sort of like takes place in nowhere. Like it sort of takes place just sort of like in space or like on a computer. And I think what I really love about your music and what I really love about this album is that I feel the Australia of it all.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, there's my favorite song on the album is "Sing Good."
Oh, thank you.
I think it's like a really beautiful song, and I think that like the opening line of the song, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read it. I used to get on a bus to school. Time was all it costed. It took about an hour to get from Kincumber to Gosford.
Yes.
And I think that's just like that to me is, I love opening lines of songs. I love an opening line of a song that like puts you into the song immediately. And I think the beauty about dance music is that sometimes the vocals aren't meant to put you in a specific place, like in time and place. They're supposed to put you like in the air, right? They're supposed to be ephemeral. It's all about like, can you feel it? Like that kind of thing with all these, you know, the house vocals, right? It's all about like feeling it, like where, and all of that is very like general, and that can be like wonderful. And I think what's so lovely about this record is that there's so many like specifics about it. And so you have this like general universal like experience of dance music and the euphoria of like bass, or like drum and bass, or like electro or stuff. But then you have this sort of like, then you have a song like "Sing Good," and you're just like, oh, like I'm on a bus, or like, oh, I'm like in her room. Like it feels like at once very universal and very private. And I think that's something you do really well on this record.
Oh, thank you so much. That is a lovely compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I have to add a question at the end of it. But I'm curious if you, like, I know you talked about your sort of some sort of things that influence you musically. Are there anything that influences you as a writer? Like when you're looking at lyrics, because that can be like a kind of a totally different sort of, you know, pipeline of music. So I'm curious, like that to me that line I was just like, oh, this is like a line Courtney Burnett would write, you know? Like,
oh, cool.
Like, and I was like, I'm curious if if there are any other like singer-songwriters who kind of like influence you and like what you want to write about. Yeah,
definitely. But I would say to the 2 people who have influenced me most as a songwriter. Okay, so I have written songs since I was really little, but I've never been a singer. I would just write them and not show anyone. And then when I became older and I was learning to be a producer, I was not even considering putting my voice in the songs. I just didn't think it was something that I should do.
Why was that? Like, just like it just wasn't done, or?
No, I just like my mind was in a cage. I just thought that I had to sound like Adele to sing. Like, you know what I mean? And I didn't, because I didn't understand how much was at my fingertips in terms of being able to make my voice sound how I wanted, because I'm just not like because also singing is like singers are like athletes, like they train all the time, and like obviously some people have a naturally strong voice, but they also like go to the vocal gym and they, you know what I mean? And I don't do that. Like I don't do, I've done a little bit of vocal training, but I'm not like working on that regularly. So much of there's a lot that I have learned to do with my voice in Ableton to make it sound the way I want to. And I learned so much of that from working with my friend Coda Banks, who's also just the most amazing songwriter. She's so fast and clever and funny with her lyrics. And then the other person is Mulrat, who's also one of my really good friends. And we've been friends for a long time. And she is so good at what you described in terms of being able to write a song and put you in a place. Her music has always been like that. She's just so excellent. And I remember in maybe, I think it was like 2018 or 2019, she showed me her song Charlie before it came out. And it's such a beautiful distilled example of that. Like through the whole song, you feel like you're right there where she's describing. And the emotions are so casual but specific. I don't know if I can really put words to what I mean about her music, but she has inspired me so much as a songwriter, and Coda Banks as well. And especially from working with Coda, because we've made so much music together, I learnt about vocal recording and producing from working with her, because she would be like, oh, can you do this? And I'd be like, yeah, I guess I'll figure it out right now. Like, so I've been fortunate to spend like hundreds of hours with her learning about vocals, and she was very patient with me when I was a little baby producer.
It seems like, you sing about a lot of your music is about sort of like being alone and being on a computer. But I think what I'm hearing from you is that there's so many people around you who like have influenced you and who like you lean on and rely on to write music together and create music together. Is there somebody, I think you mentioned like you had your friends when you were younger, you all had this click and you all like listen to music together. Is there like one person who just sort of, there was a before you met this person and after you met this person, who they sort of led you down the path of the music that you went on?
That's a good question. Well, my sliding doors moment with electronic music was like a YouTube recommendation.
Oh, really?
Honestly, yeah. So
shout out algorithm.
No, well, obviously, like I think I really have to thank my parents for having cool taste and being into electronic music when I was little, because I was...
Were they ravers? Did they go out? Were they like club people?
When they were younger, yeah. They like, my mum used to live in London and go to see shows all the time. So yeah, my parents are very cool, but I'm lucky that they played all of these kinds of music around the house when I was really little. So I think my taste was subconsciously primed to hear, like when that algorithm recommendation came along, I was ready to like what I heard, because I had grown up listening to certain things that had maybe influenced that type of music that I started listening to at that time.
It was just, there was like a sedimentary layer of that like in your subconscious, like, and then when it came to you in that moment, you're like, oh, like,
yes,
I didn't know that I actually like this.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, at the time, I thought I was hearing this like crazy brand new thing. I was like, oh my God, this is such a rush. This is so
what was it?
Stimulating. It was Madeon.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But then also because I had been listening to Daft Punk via my parents growing up, and in that moment, I obviously didn't put those two things together. But now being older, I can hear like, okay, I was ready to like that because I had already been exposed to this and this and this. And that's why I love electronic music so much, is because I think you can have such a cathartic experience with it without being in that going out environment. Like, yeah, I will never forget being so little and hearing that music and feeling so stimulated and listening back to it 10 times in a row and hearing a new sound every time. And I didn't need to be like fucked up at the club to have that experience. You know what I mean? The music itself was just like so invigorating.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Do you write, do you write music, this is kind of a weird question. Do you write music so that it can do both things, be listened to at home and also be like listened to out? Or like where do you ideally want to have your music experience?
It kind of depends on the song. Like for me, probably my favorite music that I've made is when it can be listened to in both environments and enjoyed. But I think it also just, like sometimes I will just make something like I have an A/B kind of EP single from 2019 that's these 2 songs called Water Gun and Stingray, and they were more for DJing than listening, but I just kind of made some music I liked and released it. So I try not to think about that too much. If I just like it, I'll put it out. But I mean, like just in general, in my taste, I kind of like when a song can apply to all these different environments, but I'm not going to hold myself to that for every single thing I make. So yeah.
It seems like a lot of the music. I think what another thing I really like about like your output is that it does seem to be sort of like what you're into right in the moment, right? It does feel very like, this is what's happening to me right now, and I'm going to put it onto a page, musically speaking. But there are, like, on this record, it feels like there's a lot of memories on this record. There's a lot of things that you remember, like from like good things, bad things. Do you try to? Where do you feel like the most inspired, writing about things that happen to you, or writing about things that you're feeling in the moment?
I don't really think about what the song is about when I'm writing it. Mm-hmm. It's often when it's finished or even half finished that I kind of realize what I'm writing about. Like the song Info Hazard, for example.
That's what I was kind of talking about,
it's about something really specific. But when I started writing those lyrics, I was just gibberishing and finding the vowels and consonants that worked well with my gibberish. And once it was kind of written down, because also I made that song before I had thought of the title, I Love My Computer, or I knew what my album was kind of going to be about. So I looked at the song and I was like, it's kind of about this. That's a really cool idea. And then I reworked some of the lyrics to make it fit more in that. But I didn't sit down being like, okay,
I remember this and I have to put this out.
I have to put this down on a page. Like it was just, I was doing whatever. And then it was having that experience like 6 times over and then having like half an album worth of songs that were vaguely about this umbrella thing that inspired the title and stuff like that. And the rest of the music was then fit in there as well.
Do you want to say what that song is about?
Info Hazard?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
It was about like a beheading video. That I saw, I actually didn't even see it. I was just on the bus and it was like the boys sitting behind me on the bus were watching that shit and they were trying to be like, look, and I was like, I don't want to know anything about that. But I just remember even the thought of all that going on was
yeah. You were young too, right?
I think I was in year 7 maybe, But I think it just kind of seems like that happened to everyone at some point.
Oh yeah,
so it's chill.
I think I'm much older, and I still remember like accidentally going to like rotten.com when I was younger, and just being like, "Ooh, here's a thing," and I'm like, "Whoa, I never want to see that again," you know? Or we got together and we watched Faces of Death, which is like this stupid little like fake DVD that you could rent from like the store, which is like it purportedly showed like people dying, right? Or like falling off a building or something like that. And it was all staged and fake and stuff like that. But that was when we were kids, we were just like, oh, here's something like really like transgressive and prurient, like and something that like is making us feel in our suburban malaise that we were doing something that we shouldn't have been doing. Then the internet happened. It's like, well, now all that stuff is just like a click away, you know? And that's terrifying in a way. Like the fact that like all of this all of like the disturbed things are 30 seconds away, you know? I think that really like imposed, like you just have to have like a really self-imposed like moral compass of like not wanting to do that, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, just from talking to, especially since that song came out, it seems like everyone, or not every, I don't know about every person ever, but a lot of people have had their like info hazard moment. So I don't know, it maybe seems like it's a kind of some kind of rite of passage of just being online a lot. So
Yeah. I mean, just like, I mean, like that's like just scrolling through like Twitter, you're just being like, oh my God, I can't believe I just like, that's on Twitter. You know, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's like traumatic.
For real.
How do we get out of this one? What's like, is there a song on this record where that you felt was something kind of in the outer orbit of like the Ninajirachi experience, where you were kind of like, I'm not sure about this one. This was even like, I might not even put it on here because I'm feeling a little out of my depth, but like I'm gonna try something out here and see if it worked.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think through the track list. I didn't really have any reservations about like I just wouldn't have put songs on there if I had reservations about them, because I felt really good about every song and still feel really good about every song. Maybe some outliers though. Well, I didn't have any doubts about the song because I love it so much, but Sing Good is something, I've never released a song really like that before. But I still just, and there was never a moment where I was like, oh, is this right? Because I just liked it. Maybe I remember, I didn't think that people would like Cyrac as much as they do, because I remember having a bit of I wanted every song to have some kind of like melodic hook, and Cyrac doesn't have that. Yeah. It's the most kind of like drummy song, for lack of a better word. There's no like melodic hook or like thing that you can sing along to on it, and it's not. I've released like music like that before, like the songs I was talking about before, but I just thought that maybe it would be a little bit overlooked for that reason. But I'm so happy that people have liked it so much, because I love it and I would love to make more music like that. So
that's cool. I love that song.
Thank you.
I'm curious, to take that song, you're kind of playing in a couple different kind of contexts right now, and I want to talk about maybe like how you approach each different one. Like tonight you're playing a DJ set at what time and where?
I think it's at 2:30.
2:30, yeah.
At Nizza.
And then tomorrow you're playing Prima.
Yes.
And then before this, you played kind of like an EDM festival in DC.
Yes.
And to me, like those are like three different contexts that probably require, like, I'm curious like how you approach just those three different things, like as a performer, as an artist with your own songs to play, and a USB drive of other people's songs to play. Like how do you sort of organize that in your head?
Well, I probably would have approached them in more disparate ways before my album came out and I started touring my album. Now I feel hopeful that most people who come to see me want to hear songs off my album.
Right, yeah.
That's a nice central item to mind
to go back to.
To like mind map the rest of the set around, I guess.
I guess as a DJ to be like, well, I can always play one of my songs.
Yeah, exactly. Before my album came out, I was still playing mostly my own discography, but I would maybe tailor the rest of the selection or the arc of the set to the context and stuff. But now I've just from playing so many shows since my album came out, it seems like people are often most excited to hear those songs, which is sick as fuck.
Yeah.
The songs I want to play. So I just kind of anchor any set around those songs. At the moment, I'm sure that will change as I make other music.
Even as a DJ set, or you feel a little bit more freedom to kind of play around in that world as like when you're doing a DJ set?
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit more free to play around, especially like tonight I think will be a little bit more like that, which I'm very excited for.
Nice.
It'll be fun.
A lot of people have remixed your songs. Are there any remixes of your songs that have like unlocked something for you that like you didn't see in the song before?
Oh, I mean, always, like every time it's always a really interesting take on the song. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, the first remix that came out from my album was the Frost Children remix of Fuck My Computer, and that was they just kind of made a whole new song around the vocal, and they did it so quickly, and the first thing they sent me was really cool, so I play that in like every set now as well, and that remix has kind of taken a life of its own because the production is entirely different from the original, so that's a really cool. I mean, they're all kind of like that as well. The Horse Girl remix of Delete, and the Underscores remix of It's You, they're all entirely new kind of productions underneath the vocal, which is really cool.
Are you learning anything from those? Like, are you learning anything about oh, like that's an idea I'm gonna sort of like put in my back pocket, and like when I'm working on my next thing, or like if I'm remixing something, like trying to have a conversation with the people who are having a conversation with your music? Yeah,
I mean, I just try to absorb whatever I can from any music I listen to ever. It feels like this is going to make it sound like a chore, but it's not. It feels like part of the job is like having like a very big, healthy diet of music, like just listening to things all the time, because you could take any little idea from anywhere and think, oh, I could do, or it might be in like some, like a rock song or whatever, but there might be something that you hear that you could apply to a completely different context as well. So.
Do you have a way of like recording this or like writing it down? Do you have like a notebook or something where you're just like, a timestamp of like this song, or like remember the way the bass sounds on this song?
No, I don't really write it down. Yeah, I have a lot of voice memos though.
Yeah.
If it's a lyric idea, but that's usually just something I think of when I'm walking.
You're just walking around being like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think like the one thing I was talking with fuckers about this yesterday is this idea that like so much of dance music is about like a temporary experience, right? Like you experience in the moment, you feel it, and then you sort of like you remember it for that moment, and then it's almost gone. And there's something like really beautiful about that. But like when you have an album, it's like, well, this is permanent, like there's no changing it, right? Like it's the mix is there, right? And I'm wondering, like as a DJ who grew up sort of morphing and changing things, and now as an album artist and songwriter, where you have like a permanent artifact that everybody knows and is not going to change. How does that sit with you, knowing that like these 8 or 9 songs are going to live that way forever?
Feels awesome.
Yeah?
I love them. Yes. There's nothing I would change about them.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, I think also there's the cool thing about producing music is, and also like growing up going on SoundCloud and YouTube and stuff like that, is that you can take anything out of any song and repurpose it into something entirely new at any time. So I'm really happy for my album to sit there the way it is forever. And I also know that I can grab whatever a cappella and turn it into something, or send it to someone else, or like mix it up at any moment and make it into something completely different. Yeah.
And like as like sampling is your main way of composing a song?
No, I usually just make from scratch.
Yeah. Do you like what are you getting better at when it comes to like production?
I haven't been able to produce a lot of music lately, which is really annoying because I've been touring a lot, and I always thought that I'd be able to do it at the same time, and I wouldn't have, and because I just used to play I used to play fewer shows, so I was more, I guess, with the amount of shows I've played since my album came out, there has been less free time to sit and produce music for long periods of time. So, I feel a bit rusty at the moment, honestly. I was working on something on the plane in hopes to play it at the festival on the way here. I don't know if it'll be ready in time. But I'm trying to think, maybe something that I've picked up recently. The other day, right before I came here, I was working with Frost Children, and we had a day together and just made like a bunch of music in a day. And it was nice to kind of, sometimes lately when I have had like time to work on music by myself, I've been maybe overthinking it a little bit, or feeling like I have to make something. This time is so precious, I have to make something I like right now, or what the fuck's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then having this day with friends, and we just overthought nothing and just made whatever came out for like 10 hours straight. That was really inspiring, actually. So yeah, I feel less pressure after that day. So I'm grateful to them.
Don't force it, you know. But like, I think that, you know, there is kind of a, I mean, do you feel like a pressure to be like, all right, like on to the next thing, we got to go, like we have to, like, there has to be more momentum, there has to be more like the next thing. Does that pressure come from internally, externally, and what do you do to manage that?
That's a good question. I think the pressure that I was just describing probably only comes from the fact that I haven't had as much time to make music. So when there has been time, I've felt like it has to be really meaningful and productive. But that kind of expectation of oneself, I think, well, for me, I find is often counterproductive. Most of the time, I don't feel pressure. Like when I love my computer, I obviously had deadlines for myself, and I wanted it to come out within a reasonable time frame. But I also was kind of just feeling like I'm just making whatever I like, and I wasn't stressed. But the pressure can be good as well, because there was, for example, a whole song that I cut from the track list. It was going to be track 4, but it just wasn't quite there, and the pressure of the deadline forced me to cut it. And I actually think the album is perfect without it. So sometimes I think those things are actually really good, or like they, you know, it's like I have to send this off tonight, and unless I work on it right now, it's going to go out in this chopped state. So I better like get on it. You know what I mean? So
totally.
It can be good and bad. Different kinds of pressure can be good and bad, you know?
And it's also interesting, like what you were just saying about like how you took one song off and you're like, there it is. Like,
yes, exactly.
And it's because so many times it's the opposite, where, you know, especially like older, like a band would turn in the record to the record label and they're like, where's the single? And they're like, I guess we have to write a single. And then they write a single in like 30 minutes, and that turns out to be the biggest hit of their career or something like that.
Legit.
You know, like, and so I think, you know, obviously like success by subtraction, the Coco Chanel adage is always very important.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been doing a lot of press on this record, and you've been talking about these songs. So this is kind of like a meta question, but like, has talking about this record changed how you feel about it? Like it's probably like just being asked questions about these songs and like trying to understand them in a different way, or try to like articulate them in a different way. Like, do you feel comfortable just sort of saying similar things about the songs, or do you try to be like, how do I come at describing the song in a different way in a different interview?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I've never done this many interviews in my life before.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's like it's exciting opportunities. Like it's like, oh, I'm at Primavera and I'm going to talk with Pitchfork. Like, hell fucking yeah, that's awesome. Like, but it is also that thing of, there have been times where I'm like, I'm just
saying the same thing.
But also I don't want to invent new things to say as well. Like, I don't want to like, there have been things I've said about my album, and I've said them so many times now, and sometimes I think like,
is that true?
Is that like really how I felt? Like, I think so. It's like I've kind of like maybe when I've said the same thing so many times, it's evolved differently from how it actually was over here. I mean, I journaled a bit throughout making it, so hopefully I can actually go back and go, well, that was the fact. But no, it's a good question. I guess, I like talking about my album. I still really like the music. It would be difficult if maybe at this point I was like sick of the songs, but I still like them. So it's also really fun talking to you. So
likewise.
This
is great. I think we maybe have like a couple minutes to open it up to any questions in the audience. I think there's a microphone floating around somewhere, and maybe if we can get the house lights up at like 50%, I can maybe see people if they have hands up in the air. But if anybody has a couple questions they want to ask Nina, we can have a couple of those. I think there's one right here, the sunglasses dangling on the lanyard. Or, it doesn't matter, yeah.
Hi, I'm Holly. I think that point you made about musical diet and variety was really, really interesting. So I was just curious about what else you found in other parts of your musical diet and how you happened upon those.
I usually just get recommendations from friends, or I spend a lot of time online, and if there's a lot of chatter about some album or artist I haven't heard of before, I think I have to, I really should check it out, I really should know what's going on. And if I can't listen then and there in that moment, I do have a list of things to listen to and then try to download them, so then when there's I'm cleaning my room for an hour, it's that's what I will put on and go to the list and stuff. But yeah, it's I try to whenever I hang out with friends who maybe we share a lot of taste, or I think they're usually pretty tapped into things I wouldn't know about, try to trade recommendations back and forth. And yeah, but also just SoundCloud and YouTube, the same way I found all of my favorite music when I was little, because sometimes there's things on there that are a little more untapped and things like that.
Hi Nina. I was wondering what this year's Primavera, what you were excited to see, what you want to recommend maybe, other than your set.
Here's the list of people.
Oh, thank you. Well, I actually unfortunately don't think, because I'm playing the club show tonight, I don't think I'll be able to head into the festival today. And I went in yesterday for a few hours, but it was a tricky day. So I'm not sure. I think tomorrow might be my one full day at the festival. But yeah, usually I try not to, whenever I go to big festivals, I try not to make such a rigid schedule, because then I don't want to disappoint myself if it's logistically difficult to get between stages and see everything. So often trying to just walk around and happen upon things and make fun discoveries that way. Yeah.
Someone back there.
So this is, I'm gonna sit down because I feel weird standing up. But this is obviously your debut album, and I think putting out a debut album is very scary. So when did you feel across your career, what had you done, that it was the right time to do it, or the right thing, and how did you come up to the decision of I don't know, building a universe around that album and this being sort of your presentation letter?
Yeah, it's a really good question. People have asked me this before, and I've never really known how to give a good answer, because I had been thinking about it, the idea of making an album, and I knew I wanted it to be really good. And it honestly wasn't until I made that song, All I Am, that I felt like I had a really solid sense of what it should be and a really strong motivation to work on it. But yeah, I can't say that there was a kind of an event that happened where I was like it's not like I went to someone's show and I was like, oh my God, I need to make an album now. It was just a gradual inkling. I will say that maybe in early 2024, when I had made All I Am and a couple new songs, I had started thinking about the themes and stuff, and then late 2024 I had the title, so it kind of, but this was also, I was finishing and releasing Girl EDM at that time too, so they were overlapping. It's not I just sort of finished one thing and started making the next one. So yeah, it's really hard to say. I'm sorry, I know that's not a good answer, but I just kind of felt like it.
That's good, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, thanks.
Is there anyone else? Gentleman down here in the front row.
So, I loved your work on your production work on the Two Charm album.
Oh, thank you.
From earlier this year. I mean, I think it's such a great like compliment and contrast to I Love My Computer, where that album is so kind of brash and blown out, and I don't know, the stuff that you did with them is really soft and kind of featherlight. And I guess I'm curious, do you foresee producing for other artists being a big part of your career moving forward? Or was that kind of a like, I'm doing a favor for like my friends and these people that are really like, and are like in my scene thing? And is there a bucket list of artists, or maybe one in particular who you're like, get me in the studio with that person?
Oh, there are so many. I would love to produce more for other artists. Before, I was working a lot on my own music over the last couple of years. I was doing more of it and more sessions like that, and I would love to do it more now as well. With Two Charm, we started making that music together in 2023. We made it all in like 2023, 2024, a little bit at the start of 2025, but that was mostly just finishing it. And when we were making it, we didn't know what it was going to be for. The band Two Charm didn't exist yet. I didn't know what it was going to be for. We were just having a really good time making music together. We met through my friend Mulrat as well, and the first song we made was Invisible Wings, and I didn't know, like, we were just having a good time making it. Once there was a bunch of music, because they made, some of it was with me and some of it was with other producers, they formulated their world around around the music. But yeah, like when we were making it, that wasn't all there. The music came first, and I didn't know where it was going to end up, but I'm really happy that they did what they did with it. They're so fun.
And who's like maybe dream collaborator for you, or dream artist you'd like to produce for?
Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, there are so many. I would say for like little me, maybe Lady Gaga. She was maybe my first idol, a pop girl idol when I was really little. She's so epic. So yeah, that would be really sick.
Any other questions from the audience?
I guess somebody has to ask about the track 4 that you mentioned that you discontinued from the album. So like, I'm sorry, but I gotta know like what it's like, and are we ever gonna hear it?
Oh, I hope so. I think it's like one of those songs. It's from 2020. It's like an older song, and it's one of those songs that has been through so many iterations. I'm like there's no one else I made it with. It's just like I'm the only like writer and producer or whatever on it. So it's not like I'm going back and forth with another person that's like disagree. Like it's just, I disagree with myself about this song. Like there's been so many versions of it and it's never quite there. I had a version for the album that was like, this is cool. Like it's kind of good. It's like, it's all right, but it just wasn't, I didn't feel the same like conviction about it that I felt about every other song on there. And it was also the track listing for the album was pretty intentional, and it also just wasn't sitting, it just wasn't quite there. And I remember at the time I was like so gutted about cutting it, and now I'm so happy because now it has the potential to live the life it deserves at some point. Because like I first wrote Delete in 2019, and at the time I was like, whatever, but like, and then it ended up somewhere. So I just have the same hope for this track 4 song. Maybe it'll end up somewhere, and when it does, I'll be like, yes, that's why it didn't work out in 2025, because it was meant to be here. So yeah, I can't even tell you what it sounds like because it's been through so many versions. but
please tell us that it's the very track, so we know that this is the track that has traveled such a long journey.
Yes, yeah.
Let us know.
I'll let you know in the future.
I maybe have one more question. You're talking about like how it's like I only disagree with myself, like it's only me in the room. I think like as artists get bigger, that they can maybe surround themselves with people who are just like, wow, amazing job, like good job, yes, this sounds amazing. Is there somebody in your life who you can be like, will you please listen to this and tell me if it's good or not? And like, I trust your opinion like to A/B version this with somebody else, and is that person like, who is that person, and like, will you keep them around forever?
There's a few people like that. There are a bunch of friends like that. There are a few songs on my album that I was so stuck with. It's always the structure. It's always the like 0 seconds to 3.5, whatever. It's always the like timeline structure that whenever I have a snag, it's always that. So there are a few friends that I will send things to like helps it, like, or even just I'll like send it to a friend and be like, when do you get bored? Like, when do you check out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is like what's too long, or like what's, you know what I mean? Because it's
Or
always,
what could be longer?
Yes, what could be longer?
Yeah.
What's the most interesting part of this year? And yeah, I have a few friends like that. But I will say I just always have to know. There are a few songs, like I think Info Hazard and London Song are the two songs where everyone in my life was like, yeah, they're done. And they were not done. And I was not happy, and I had to keep, and it was probably like annoying to like the fucking timelines or due dates or whatever, but I just had to be certain that I couldn't do any more. So and then when I sent the final, they were like, yeah, okay, it's like, I get you or whatever. But yeah, you just have like a, you know, when you just like, you know that you like something and there's nothing that you would change about it. Like, you're not making any compromises for a deadline or for like a box that you're trying to fit it in. So yeah, I always want to like have that feeling. Sometimes I just get there on my own. Other times I'm like, there's something wrong with this, but I don't know what it is, and just have to show a few friends until maybe they all have the same opinion that like this part's too long, and I'm like, oh, well, that's the problem.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, thank you. Shout out to my friends for that. There's a number of them in my life that I would die without.
Bring them with you everywhere.
Yes.
Well, that's a good place to end it. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good time at the fest, everybody.